Welcome to the natural medicine revolution. Haha. I've got to share with you, everyone, that I have a confession to make. I have an illness, a disease, and this disease is killing me. It's called aging. So you all have it. Every single person goes through aging. Although we talk about this as a more about an anti-aging, we're not calling it anti-aging. Calling it something different. So, first of all, my name is Haroon Rabbani. I'm a functional medicine specialist. I help people reverse type 2 diabetes. I work on the psychological element, and I'm a host of a podcast. And I've been delivering podcasts before the term podcast was invented back in the early to mid 2000s. With me, we have Dr. Ashish Paul. Dr. Ashish, would you like to welcome yourself and say a bit about yourself?
Welcome, Harun, and welcome myself. Yes, my name is Dr. Ashish, and I specialize in natural fertility and fertility support and fertility care that I do for my women who have been struggling for many years to get pregnant. And also, I speak about natural medicine. I speak about Ayurvedic medicine. I'm a herbalist practitioner, yoga practitioner, all sorts of things, NLP practitioner. So we are talking about anti-aging. Is for me, it's a negative word. It's like anti. We start with anti. So I like the idea of rejuvenation. How can we rejuvenate our body, mind, spirit, emotions, everything?
Absolutely. And so one of the things it's important people to get real about this. The truth is, from the moment you're born, you're dying. That's the truth. And you've got a certain number of cells which are being born and certain number of cells dying. And obviously, at a very young age, when you're a baby, for most healthy babies, they've got far more cells being born than dying. And if you follow the traditional way of thinking, which is, by the way, 99.9% of the planet. So don't worry if your mindset isn't as what we're going to share. 99.9999% of the planet thinking is, well, dying is natural, which it is, and aging is something that comes with lots of disease and so on and so on. And the truth is that you don't have to age disgracefully. You can age in a very graceful, energetic way. And so let's quickly touch upon some of the symptoms, and we'll talk a bit more from my Ayurvedic perspective, some of symptoms of aging. So some of them, for example, is one of the big ones is if you got a grandmother, grandfather, or people who are old, they're going to start shrinking in size. Literally, they lose height, 4 to 6 centimeters in height. They're going to experience joint problems. They're going to have hip problems and so on. Some of them will gain more weight, others will lose weight. So some will get skinny. So my daddy is 80 and he's losing his weight. You'll have frequent urination. And what's interesting is that, and we will go deeper into that, is a lot of them would suffer from physical pain caused by chronic inflammation. So let's in your perspective, what are the signs that someone's aging? And by the way, aging can happen any age at any point. So what are the common signs that you see or you'd like to point to, Ashish?
So we know that memory loss is any sign of aging, your skin loss, or not loss in that sense, but wrinkles on your skin or skin feeling getting what we call thinner. You might have more plump skin when you're younger. You lose that water content and it starts to get looser and also thinner as well. So that is also a sign of aging. As you mentioned, it can happen at any age. Of course, it happens more after a certain age, but it can happen. We're going to mention some of those markers why it can happen at an earlier age as well. Then we do have, in women, for example, menopause is a sign of aging, that you have finished your fertility function of your body, and then now you are getting into the next cycle of your fertility health, and you don't need that function. So menopause is also many times considered sign of aging. Then joint pains, joint aches, some of them are part of aging, although Ayurvedic medicine does not consider that to be the case. You can have very, very healthy, active life up till past hundreds as well. But it is because we haven't seen it. It's hard to believe that anybody can go to that age without any illness, heart function, if the heart function slows down, you are breathless, you cannot walk very long distances, that is also sign of aging. So these are few markers of aging that we see. What have I missed?
What's interesting is, and I just find it fascinating, because for people like you and I, we're living and breathing what we're teaching, so we don't really have to think about it so much. But obviously, when we want to explain to others, we need to kind of do a bit more research. And what's interesting is this: here's some commonalities between a lot of people who are aging. Alzheimer's and dementia is a common condition that people develop. And by the way, Alzheimer's dementia doesn't develop when you're old; they develop when you're very young. So, and we'll come on to that. Alzheimer's and dementia. I mentioned chronic inflammation. Now, chronic inflammation, of course, is the cause of every single chronic disease you can have, you can think of. So
autoimmune conditions, for example.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you've got oxidative stress in essence. Just imagine a piece of iron or a nail in water, it's going to rust. Well, that's not exactly what happens, but it's the same kind of process. Oxidative stress, you've got more free radicals in your body. You've got also a lot more stress. So as people age, for whatever reason, they will have chronic stress, they'll feel anxious, depressed. These are all symptoms as well. Many of them, well, I mentioned Alzheimer's and dementia. Alzheimer's and dementia have a commonality with type 2 diabetes, which is insulin resistance, which is fascinating. So what I've just described to you are the 4 of the 5 main causes of type 2 diabetes. So in other words, your body, which can potentially live for way over 100 years. Places like Okinawa in Japan, they live to 110. I've heard of places where, like in Georgia, in the wilderness kind of thing, near the mountainside, they're living up to the age of 150. I don't know if it's on record
in
officially.
Himalayas, yogis and those people are living, they're not advertising, so nobody knows about them, but they are living past 100.
Exactly. And so it's not, these are miracle once in the blue moon kind of thing. This goes on in the world. So let's talk about, as you see it, Ashish, as taking on patients on a regular basis, what are you finding to be the common patterns of behavior for people who are aging very quickly?
Well, we know excessive smoking, that it's so evident. That is probably one of the most evident signs that you can see in terms of their skin, how, and even in terms of their breathing. From somebody's breathing if they have been a smoker, especially if they have been an excessive smoker in the past. Even if there has been many years, you can still feel in their breath, because they never gain that pulmonary function back. Their lungs cannot inflate at the same rate. So it is excessive alcohol can do that, excessive sugar can do that if you are having lots of sugar. So that will cause the gut to be in a constant or permanent state of inflammation. So that in itself is aging. Your cells are going to age much faster. The more sugar there is in your system, much faster your cells are going to behave, much faster your cells are going to age, and also they're not going to be functioning very well. What we call the cellular exchange is not going to happen very well. So those signs I see. So when you have digestion which is just chronically bad, whatever you eat or you're not able to digest, in a way your gut is aging. In that sense, you may be very young, but your gut is not behaving as young. It is reversible though, so I'm not trying to scare here. But those are the signs that we see. And then autoimmune conditions, and we see that autoimmune conditions are getting much more. We see them in relation to arthritis, for example. You can have autoimmune arthritis, you can have autoimmune thyroid issues that I see. Thyroid issues are so much that you see even in younger people, which is a sign of, again, aging comes from inflammation because your gut is not working very well. So all of these are signs of, and with women, what we see where the ovary function shuts down much earlier. That is sign of aging, that your ovaries are, for whatever bizarre reason, on by themselves, even under 30 years age in women, they're shutting down. Or if the sperm quality is particularly bad in men, those are the signs of aging that I see, because I work with infertility. Yeah.
And so a lot of men of a certain age, 40 plus, they're recommended to go and get a prostate health checked. And again, the challenge with being diagnosed with prostate cancer is by the time you're diagnosed, it's already too late in the context of it's already been going on 15, 20 years. And truthfully, if I had a magic wand, if I was a genie, or if you're a genie and asked for a wish, and I'd say this is the wish, I would say, here's my wish. I wish people were checked, had a health check, thorough health check, at least 4 times a year, every single year for the rest of their life, way in advance. I mean, I'm talking about from their mid-20s onwards, because most of these conditions, and I really say most of these conditions, are preventable. So,
well, actually, just to point out that health check that we are talking about, now we have all the tests, and you can go and do the test as well, and the scans and everything else to check what's happening inside. But if you are really well connected with your body, if you know your body constitution really, really well, you will see the signs yourself also, the things that you will pick up, the things that shouldn't be there, which people take as natural. You know, for example, that indigestion, bloating, and other things, and constipation and hemorrhoids. It's like, okay, it is normal. It is not. Or it is natural.
Here's an example. On today's Monday, on Saturday, I worked on my allotment, and I worked about 4 or 5 hours, and my back was aching. Now, I do yoga every single morning without fail. Well, 7 days a week. I'll sometimes might do it 6 days a week. And so I do morning yoga. And when I was doing sun salutation, this is yesterday, my God, I was struggling to actually bend down fully and touch the floor. I was feeling the pain. And it just made me think, what about all these people? Now, bearing in mind, have a lot of self-awareness of my own body because of the yoga and the meditation and so on. What about all the people who have absolutely no self-awareness, and this is going on because they're sat at the desk all day, or sat on their couch, or doing physical labor, and actually not relieving their pain, their inflammation? I mean, how do people even survive, I ask?
No, I mean, that's the thing. The awareness is the key. And that is why it's so crucial for us to understand our body and our mind. How does our limbs work? What is the range of movements that we can do? Because not everybody can do all kinds of movements. You know, what is a healthy movement for me? Okay, if this is not happening, then there is something, some kind of discomfort is developing in my body. And to know that. And if you know that, then there is something that you can do much well before it gets inflamed. For example, people have, what is it called, frozen shoulder. You know, frozen shoulder doesn't develop overnight. It is something, there was some discomfort, there was some pain, some inflammation, which people ignore, and you're not listening to it, or that you keep taking the painkillers and you are not doing anything else to resolve it. And then there comes a point where body is like, okay, I'm not moving the shoulder anymore. Now you have to do extreme measures to do that. And even that is fully resolvable, but it is to know signs very early. And that's where, you know, preventative medicine, Ayurvedic medicine is so handy, because it talks about every symptom and sign in so much detail, and not just symptoms and signs of the body, but symptoms and signs of the mind as well. That if you don't feel happy, you know, for example, if I can move my arm all the way up and tomorrow I can't, and then I see, okay, next day I can't, then there is something wrong. But how many people are that well connected to their body? They're not even, moving arms and legs in that sense. So it is knowing your body, knowing your mind, knowing how much is natural for you, because everybody's natural is different.
You're watching the Natural Medicine podcast, soon to be released, but you're watching that. You're watching Natural Medicine podcast on the Haroon Rabbani Show, which is a podcast. So for those of you watching, my name is Haroon Rabbani, and I am with Dr. Ashish Paul, Ayurvedic doctor, specialist in fertility treatments, both for men and for women. And a big plug, which is this, towards the end of September, we are launching a brand new podcast. So my podcast, the Arun Rabbani Show, continues, and just me, myself, and I. And the Natural Medicine podcast will be exclusively Dr. Ashish and myself, talking about every ailment under the sun as best we can, given 52 weeks of the year. We might take a couple of weeks off. We'll be talking about that. I would love for you to join us. So if you would like to join us for then, just type your name below. I know I said it last week. I'm going to say it again. I'd love for about a couple of hundred people, 200, 300, 400, 500,000, 10,000 people joining us at the launch. Hint, hint. So make sure you invite yourself and your family and your friends. Now, Katie asked this question. My son is having quite a lot of digestive problems, and he smokes with his partner, has API and lupus, and this can be worked with to stop things developing fast, as family members have not lived beyond 60 years. First of all, I've got to say, on one level, you could talk about destiny on one level and say, I'm destined. I do believe that, when I die, I do believe in a God, and you don't have to, I'm not trying to motivate anyone to believe in a God or otherwise. There comes a time, but also there's also taking full responsibility. We can also be a victim of circumstances. You mentioned somebody smoking. My niece's wedding last week, I think it was, last Thursday I went to. Now, she was there, and one of my cousins was there as well, and his dad was very close to me. He was only 42 and he died. 42. How did he die? He was a chain smoker. He used to smoke cigarettes like no one's business, and he lost both of his lungs. They operated in one, and I watched him his life just wither away so quickly. So certain things you can take responsibility for. Certain conditions you can work through on your own, and we strongly recommend you take full responsibility, do things on your own. But then certain elements, that's where you say, okay, I need to go to an expert who knows their stuff, Dr. Ashish or myself. So is there anything you want to say about lupus at all, Ayurvedic, from Ayurvedic perspective?
Absolutely. It's an autoimmune condition. And lupus has got various representation. Lupus doesn't affect same way in every person, and there is a lot that one can do with the immune system, and with the great antioxidant herbs that we use. And again, I never mentioned generalized medicine for everyone, but especially for something like lupus. But go and see a practitioner so that you can be checked properly and start taking those medicines. As Harun said, take responsibility. You don't know whatever you are destined for, but because there is no way of knowing what we are destined for, at least we can take responsibility and do that way and feel better about it, that, okay, I'm doing something for it. But there is a lot that you can do with lupus, and even to reduce all the signs and symptoms that are happening here.
Yeah, and one of the very important elements of lupus, I would say from my perspective, is the psychological issue, the traumas, because autoimmune conditions, no matter how positive you think you are right now, autoimmune conditions and chronic diseases, all of these stem from traumas or unexpressed emotions. Because a lot of people say, for example, with anger management, I grew up as an angry child. I grew up in a very violent environment, violent era, and a violent dad at the time. Is pretty damn amazing now. However, that made me a very, at least energetically, a violent person. And it had physical connotations, consequences for it, and relational consequences as well. Although
and it makes you age faster.
It makes you age like crazy because it's destroying your gallbladder, your liver, and many other organs.
Yeah.
So again, somehow I might now. The thing is, the worst thing to do is suppress it, because that's what's going to age it. It's to pretend it's not happening. And there's way too many people, but I certainly find that amongst the diabetic community, way too many people with suppressed anger, unexpressed anger. The other thing is, of course, it's better to express than not to express. And it's also important that you learn how to let go. And there's a particular science to it. It doesn't just happen like that. You have to work through it. So whether it's lupus or any other condition, you've got to look at it as a whole being. The biggest issue I feel I have with modern medicine, and I'm not anti-modern medicine, far from it. If my leg broke, I want morphine or something or other to get rid of the damn pain. I don't want a homeopathic remedy in that moment in time. I want the most powerful drug. So there's a time and a place. So the biggest challenge is that, and it was interesting because Louis Pasteur came up with something called the germ theory. And the germ theory was all about dealing with infections. What the germ theory was saying was all diseases are caused by outside forces. And actually, Deschamps was talking about the terrain theory, which is actually it's to do with the internal environment. I don't know if you talk about psychological, but certainly talk about physiological. Now, Louis Pasteur totally despised Deschamps, but at his deathbed, he gave in. He said, "You know what? Deschamps is right. It is about your internal environment." However, modern science stuck to the Louis Pasteur way of thinking, and they still treat the symptoms of a disease, viruses, bacteria, parasites,
Yeah.
etc., the symptoms of the disease rather than the cause. If say, Ashish, if I came to you and I said, "Oh, I got this headache, I can't get rid of it," the first thing you're gonna do, I know, is say, "Well, hold on, what happens before you have a headache?" I bang my head on the wall, I headbutt the wall 10 times every time I have a headache. You're gonna say, "Okay, well, maybe stop headbutting the wall."
Yeah.
Whereas, at least I don't go to doctors anymore because I've not had the need for a couple of decades. But when I did, I presume they'd say, "Here you go, here's a headache pill." And there's the difference. I know I mock, I take the mick a bit, but the reality is, number one, take responsibility, because you are the person with the power over the causes of your conditions. It's not about blaming, it's not about pointing fingers, it's about saying, okay, if my lifestyle choices, my thinking process, which has been programmed into me, it's not even me, if that is the cause of my disease,
Yeah.
maybe if I change what's going on here, extremely possible, by the way, what's going on internally and energetically or spiritually, maybe if I shift that, then the symptoms will change. Too right, it does.
Yeah. I just want to add to that there is transgenerational trauma as well. So if you have in your family, if there has been trauma in the past with your parents, grandparents, some traumatic event, whether it doesn't have to be a national tragedy, traumatic event, whatever was traumatic for your family, that can also be carried on. And that pain and that psychological pain and trauma carries on, and that can also make an effect. When we talk about in our lives everywhere, we are talking about the power of your mind, and your mind is in every single disease. So do look into that aspect as well, of clearing and working with energy, as well as with herbs and therapies as well. But yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about the body constitution, which we talk about every single episode. And for those of you who aren't aware, body constitution is basically everybody has their own unique body. How can I say, the way your body reacts to stuff, responds to stuff. So you can have, and it's interesting, studies have been done. You can
Yeah.
have two
Lot.
people, twins, and as twins, they've got all the same genes. I'm talking about identical twins as well as fraternal twins, and they've been given different lifestyles. Now, you'd think if diseases, aging, etc., was genetic, they'll both die approximately at the same time. Well, naturally, but they don't. It's to do with now. There are twins. There might be 20% related to their genes, of course. But you mentioned intergenerational stuff as well. But 80% is epigenetic. It's the environment, not
Yeah.
just the psychological, but the physiological environment. So a very big part of the environment is played, and we have to be self-aware by body constitution. Do you want to explain what that is? I nearly explained it, but that's your
Yes.
job.
I think you will learn slowly as we keep talking about it every time. I do have a couple of people or more people are coming through and who have sent me their body mind constitution charts. I still need to assess and send them the details. So thank you for that. If you're waiting, if you're listening, by the way, but you can do the body constitution check, what we call the doshas, and dosha questionnaire is on my website, and we'll share the link as well. It is to find out how your body works, how your mind works, how your emotions work, all of it, how you are working as a human being. When you eat, say, for example, banana, then how does that banana go through your system? How long do you take to digest it as compared to the next door neighbor or as compared to your identical twin? And that is unique to every single human being on this planet. Just like our fingerprints, all these digestion chemicals, biochemicals, neurochemicals, they're all different. And how we then react, to certain foods, how we react to emotions. That is what mind body constitution is. And mind body constitution, there is a lot of studies. Actually, there are more and more studies because we are doing a lot more what we call what are we doing? We are putting people into, finding out what they like, what they don't like. They're doing this for marketing as well. So there is so much that you can read on it. But it comes from, and I find, of course, I'm biased, but Ayurvedic constitution method is the best to find out what is your constitution, Vata, Pitta, Kapha, and a mixture of three. And according to that, what foods can you eat? How should you be living your lifestyle? If you are a Vata person, you know that you're going to have erratic bowel. You're going to have more tendency towards IBS. You have more tendency towards sleeping lightly. So then you can put those systems in place so that you don't suffer from it, at least 80% of the time. So that is what body-mind constitution is about.
So in essence, how your body, your constitution will impact on how you think, how you behave, how you react to stuff. And just again, we reiterate, like we do in every episode almost, that your mind and body are not separate. There is no mind-body connection. They are one. There is. It's like saying, oh look, my finger's connected to my thumb. No, they're connected. Like they're not connected. They're one. It's part of the hand.
Yeah.
Right. So keep that in mind. Okay. So again, if you have a chance, come back to the recording of this. If you have a chance, click on the link for the questionnaire. I would strongly recommend you do the questionnaire. And by the way, if you do like this episode, and make sure you share it. And if you like
subscribe, share
yes,
it.
yes, subscribe to the Haroon Rabbani podcast, Haroon Rabbani Show. If you're watching on YouTube, sorry, LinkedIn and Facebook, that's how it is. So, okay, let's talk about one area. Before we come on to food, one very big area is eating cycles.
Mm-hmm.
How frequently people eat. Well, why is that a problem? Why is it a problem the way people eat in the West?
I think it's totally flip-sided. We should be eating the least in the evening, more towards the first half of the day, but we are doing completely the opposite. The dinner is the biggest meal for most people, and of course, more eating causes more aging. The more you eat, you need to be light. Light on footprint, light on your body overall, and light in weight as well. The more weight you are carrying, we know that there is cardiovascular risks. We know that there are other risks, and diabetes, of course. But it is the risk of aging. Okay, so diabetes, or you have more insulin resistance, or your pancreas doesn't work, is because it is aging much faster, because the mitochondria or the other cellular organelles that are in the cell, they cannot cope with the whole thing. Yeah. So that is what is happening. That is what is happening with fertility as well. The reason that fertility is going downhill, because the cells are aging, eggs and sperms are aging. So my whole method of even doing the fertility work that I do is about rejuvenation. How can we rejuvenate a person right down to their sperms and eggs? Because sperms and eggs are the most finest cells of the body. Yeah. And then but it is going to come from the beginning, from the first tissue. So they are not going to just appear from thin air. You need to have a healthy body, healthy mind, and then you can have healthy eggs and sperms. Yeah. What was the question, by the way?
So the question was, why is the Western way of eating, meaning
yes.
meaning several meals a day and so on, such an issue?
So yogic way of eating is less eating. Okay, and less eating, simple eating, and you eat more mono diet. When you want to cleanse your system, you eat mono diet. For example, when I give cleansing diet to somebody, oh, I give, you want to do fasting. My method of fasting, you eat khichdi for 7 days. Yeah. It's not about without any food. That is not Ayurvedic method. That is not healthy for the body. You want to eat something, but it is mono diet or basic diet that you eat, and you keep repeating that. And that's when your system get cleansed. Yeah. So Western way of eating, and Western way of eating is everywhere now. It is not just here, but even in the countries which are Eastern, they're eating Western way. Is that we are eating far too heavier in the evening, then we sleep on that, we are not digesting that food, that causes more inflammation, and it's a vicious cycle that we keep repeating.
I mean, one of the most amazing and really incredible practices that has been certainly within the yoga traditions, Muslim traditions, Christian traditions, Judaism, some of the indigenous traditions of North and South America, is fasting. And what's, especially if you're religious and you're born into religion, you really have no clue how powerful fasting is. And the body, I feel the body itself is a miracle. If you're watching this, you are walking, living, talking, thinking miracle. Just think about this: 37,000 billion, 37,000 billion, so 12 zeros, chemical reactions taking place every single second in your body. And how many of them are you making happen? So your body has the ability to take care of itself, but there's a saboteur, a killer, a slayer, a murderer. It's you. And how do you do it? By eating too frequently. We just talked about that. So how do you undo that? And the truth is, we have in this day and age, we have more people dying from food excess than we have people dying from hunger, like there were in the 80s and the 70s and before that. So clearly there's plenty of food to go around. And so what happens is this: we eat in excess. And I'll tell you why, because we've been brainwashed to think like that. And so here's one thing I do with people with type 2 diabetes or anyone with chronic disorders, and it works like a treat. When you're fasting, you're clearing out the blood sugars that you've got sitting around, causing diabetes and any untold damages to your nervous system and your arteries and so on. But the other thing is you start using the ketones in your body, which is basically your fats. And then the next stage, which is the stage, and it takes 14 to 18 hours of fasting. Fasting, by the way, doesn't kick in from the moment you stop eating. It takes 4 or 5 hours after then. So if you eat, like, say, for example, if you stopped eating at 6 o'clock today, it's only by 10 p.m. tonight, if you haven't eaten anything, that's when you start fasting. So when you're fasting between 14 to 18 hours, you start going through a process scientifically proven to be absolutely powerful called autophagy, where your good healthy cells eats away the dying cell, the sick cells. It takes away the good protein so that it can reuse it, reconstitute it. It's kind of a bit of a cannibalism that takes place. You know what? As a result, you're freeing up mitochondrial cells, mitochondria, which are basically your energy factories. These, if you've got lots of mitochondria going into old age, 80s, 90s, or whatever, then you're going to live a long time, because when those mitochondria disappear, good night. So there are different types of fasting. So just keep in mind, and we'll actually do an entire show, an episode on fasting. So keep in mind, if you've never done fasting before, then start light. Do not jump into a 24-hour fast. Build it up. And you all fast, by the way. So if you go to sleep at some point and you don't eat during the night, you'll have 4 or 5 hours, and you don't eat straight away. You'll have 4 or 5 hours, maybe 8 hours, maybe 10 hours of fasting taking place. So that's why we call it breakfast. Get it? So all you're doing is extending that out. So if you do extend it out for a few hours. And earlier on I was thinking, you heard the saying, oh my God, I'm dying, I'm starving to death, I'm dying to eat. Yeah, when people are dying to eat, they end up eating in a way that they're going to die, meaning eating to die. They're eating all the wrong foods. So let's start off with the usual wrong foods not to eat. first of all, we mentioned sugar, but the next big thing, of course, processed foods.
Yeah.
The sugar, the salt, you've got nothing of value in that food. And yet I've seen fitness experts and gurus who aren't nutritionists and even nutritionists say, oh yeah, it's okay, don't take away the pleasures of life by telling people not to eat, their fast food burger or whatever. Is that the extent? Is that the limitation of your pleasures, your doner kebabs, your Big Macs? Is that the extent of your life? Seriously, you need to wake up. I'm sorry, I'm going to just say it as it is. Wake up. Wake up and smell the coffee, because number one, there's not hundreds, there's thousands of different vegetables available. Many dishes and combinations of dishes that you can make or you can buy. Better to do it fresh, and which is tasty, which is delicious. And what I found, I actually, omnivore, primarily eating meats, chickens and so on, fish, 7 days a week basically. I eat vegetables as well, and so I decided to go plant-based totally. And I have to say, after about 2 weeks of it, I felt a lot more energy. Number one. Number two, I found that the food tasted magnificent. It's almost like eating the previous diet that I was on was actually numbing down my taste buds.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not completely plant-based now. I would say 95%. However, it does make a difference. And if I can do it, I'll be honest with you, I used to think, I cannot live without curry twice a day, every day for the rest of my life. I was like that until my early 20s. You know what? If I can change wholesale, so can you. It's that easy. So
Yes.
what are the foods that can help people to rejuvenate them?
Well, you've mentioned the big ones. I think those are the big ones to drop out. And then what we want a cleaner gut. Okay. So it doesn't matter what food you are eating apart from the big ones that you mentioned. So not to eat those, but fresh fruit, fresh vegetables that you want to eat. Fish is a good food to have. So occasional fish, or 2 or 3 times a week fish, that is a good diet overall. You don't need any excessive meat or anything else on top of that. And then to make sure that you don't have indigestion, you're passing stools every day or maybe more than once. And that's what we want. We want the no inflammation in your gut. And that is going to be shown by all these little markers that you pass your stools every day. You don't have any indigestion. You don't have any bloating. You don't feel heaviness in your stomach when you eat food. You eat food and you feel good after eating food. You don't go into this slumber or heaviness after food. All those little signs are signs that your gut is working very well. Yeah. And then of course the clarity of your skin, the clarity of your even the clarity of the stools. Actually, we don't want to talk about only about stools, but stools give a lot. They're a great indicator of your health. So we want that to happen. Your aging starts from your gut, and your anti-aging also starts from your gut. That's the first thing that you need to change.
Yeah, and a lot of people think, and they think it's about the
So rejuvenation,
skin.
anti-aging is not just putting serums on your face.
Yeah, exactly. No. Did you say serum on your? You did say serum, did you?
Serum, yeah.
Okay. Just thought I heard something else. So anyway, you're watching the Haroon Rabbani podcast, and if you're watching on Facebook, I don't know why my privacy settings on private, but I will make it available public later on, so you can share. The recording will be what you're watching now, and it will be available as soon as we finish. So please hang on in there. Otherwise, you can watch it on youtube.com/Haroon Rabbani or on my LinkedIn page. So let's talk now. I want to share one thing, right, which is really fascinating, which is this: that one of the things I watched a documentary years ago, and which is about a lot of French women. What they do is they get a bowl of water, ice cold water, and they dunk their face and they leave their face in the water. They're obviously breathing, they don't dunk it for hours on end. And so have you heard of that at all? People doing that?
Yeah, we have now. everybody is doing this ice bucket challenge and everybody is dipping into ice. It is one of the methods of rejuvenation, is to be, and cold water has been recommended. Ayurveda does not recommend having shower with very, very hot water. It should be when it is very cold. For example, winters in UK can be very harsh, especially if you are from the north. So then having just tepid, what we call just tepid water, so slightly warm, but excessive heat also ages your skin. Okay.
Yeah.
And excessive heat also ages your scalp as well, and your hair also, and that is why people lose hair. If you've been washing your hair with warm water, it is aging your hair. So you need cooler, colder water. So that can be taken to this extreme where once a week or something you dip your whole self to rejuvenate your cells, and also to rejuvenate again the beautiful mitochondria. And I love the structure of mitochondria, by the way. And for the cellular functions to be enhanced, if you can go and dip yourself, or have even at home, if you don't have bath, doesn't matter, come under a very, very cold shower and stand there, for some time.
I strongly recommend it. And I'll tell you one thing, this is back in 2017, end of 2017, I damaged my back, different story altogether. But the point was I had so much backache. And so what I did was, after my warm shower, I would turn it down to cold and I would shower my back and then later on the rest of my body. Without a shadow of a doubt, it was the most amazing experience for
Yeah.
getting rid of pain, because when you're sending cold water to that part of your body which has got inflammation, so it could be your knee joint or hip joints
Yeah.
or your back, when you're doing that, you're releasing opiates, you're basically your body's natural opiate system, and these endorphins are basically removing inflammation and they're acting as painkillers. So it's a fabulous painkiller. In the Muslim community, one of the things they do, pray 5 times a day, and they wash their hands, etc. And I'll do a set of videos on that. And one of the things is you wash your face 3 times with cold water. Can you imagine that? You do that, it doesn't matter what weather it is, 5 times a day. What that does is it has as well as helping reduce inflammation, helping you to
It
reduce,
wakes you up.
it wakes you up, but it also reduces anxiety.
Yeah.
It's absolutely magical. It reduces
Well,
anxiety.
I only have cold showers. So even as when I was younger, I used to have cold showers, and now again got back again into it. So yeah.
And so moving on, is let's talk a bit
From
more
cold.
about moving on from cold showers and screaming like a 3-year-old girl, and that's occasionally actually my nephew does. He's like in his mid-20s, and when I visit my family, and he's having a cold shower because he's like screaming at the top of his voice. But just to, and it's interesting because a lot of people think, oh, this cold shower is there to help me um, just calm me and relax me. No, it's the other way around. It's not about relaxing you. It's actually giving your body a bit of a shock. And speaking of shocks, here's something else which would be I've just did about an hour before this podcast, which is going to sauna bathing, whether it's a Turkish bath, steam room, Swedish style, Swedish Finnish sauna,
Or
whatever style.
Ayurvedic.
Ayurvedic sauna, yep. And
Mhm.
we wanted to remind me to talk about that in a bit. We're going to talk about Panchakarma. So why sauna? This is absolutely important for everybody to understand. First of all, and you're not going to hear it anywhere else because people daren't talk about it, but I'm going to give it to you in code. The temperature of a sauna should be between 80 degrees to 100 degrees Celsius. That's the environmental temperature in that little box that you're sitting in, which kills viruses. And not only that, it helps create autophagy. Not only that, this is a proper study. Finnish studies have shown that if you go to a sauna between 1 and 3 times a week, then you are going to reduce your, now I'm paraphrasing, it's not the exact number, but you're going to reduce the chances of Alzheimer's and dementia by about 23%, something like it could be 22%.
Wow.
So if you go 4 to 7 times a week, not 47 times a week, 4, 5, 6, or 7 times a week to a sauna, you will reduce the chances of Alzheimer's and dementia by 65 to 67%.
Oh, can't hear you.
Muted myself accidentally. Can you hear me now? Yeah.
Yes, yes.
So
Yeah.
that is absolutely amazing. So
Yeah.
here's what I strongly, strongly recommend. I go 4 times a week at least. And here's what I found. Number one, and you only need to be in there 20 minutes. That's the sweet spot is actually 19, but 20 minutes, no longer. You don't need to do it longer. 20 minutes consecutively, build it up. So don't just jump into it for the first time. And you will find you're not going to relax if it's that kind of temperature that I mentioned, 80 to 100 degrees Celsius, your body is going to stress, and that's important. Also, your head's going to get hot. It means your blood is traveling to your head, your blood is traveling to your feet. And guess what happens to Alzheimer's? Alzheimer's is basically you're receiving sugars into your blood, you're getting protein involvement, which you don't want, the kind of protein deformation that's going to happen. You're getting blood circulation there at a very, very high level. So please, if you can, sauna, steam room, build it up 3 times a week minimum. I would say 4 is enough. You don't need to go 7 times a week. You can if you want to, just 20 minutes. And also, if you do it straight after a workout, it's going to help reduce inflammation. That's the reason why I went today, because last couple of days, Saturday, I did garden work and my back was aching after 4 hours. And then couldn't get rid of it yesterday. I don't take medication. And I went today, solved, resolved. So strongly recommend it. So there's that. Now let's talk about detoxification, because we build up a lot of toxins through the environment, through the water we drink. It's like everything's poison through the air we breathe. Forget chemtrails, we won't even go there. And obviously through the food. Talk to us about panchkarma. What does that mean?
Oh, well, we are going to be bringing that as well to those who want to delve more deeper into and want to rejuvenate their body, mind, and spirit. It's a deep detoxification program that we have in Ayurveda, and actually, it is a rejuvenation program. And it does detoxification and rejuvenation at the same time. But it is a 3 to 4 weeks long program, or can be even longer than that, again based on your body mind constitution. And uh, it involves a lot of procedures. So we give internal medications, we give internal ghee to drink, which is medicated ghee. And then we go on to do massages. Following that, we do what we call purgation. So we give herbs and you pass stools, 20 to 30 stools. And then that day you are nil by mouth. Then you follow with specific diet. Following that, we do what we call colonics. So it is not colonic irrigation. It is, we give specific amount of oils and decoctions to help cleanse and rejuvenate your gut and your bowel, and your rectum as well. So then following that, we do Shirodhara, we do again calming treatments. So this is a protocol for at least 4 weeks. And this is very specific to Ayurveda. This is not in any other healthcare system that you see rejuvenation. And rejuvenation in Ayurveda is mentioned separately as a whole branch of rejuvenation. Okay. And there is protocol of using certain herbs, the way you use them over a period of a month or 3 months or 6 months to rejuvenate, depending what your constitution is, what kind of diseases you have, which part of organ of your body are we rejuvenating. So that is the whole protocol, and we will be bringing something that to people who are interested in rejuvenating. But it
So
is, yeah, it is about changing your cells right at with the program. And
I know. Sorry, I know of people who from various countries have been to, say, for example, India for 4 or 5 or 6 weeks doing entire panchkarma rejuvenation. So why does it take so long? And this is for me and it's for everybody else to understand. Why the heck does it take so long to do this?
well, we need to get deeper into the cells. and it does involve all this steaming and everything that you're mentioning. So all those procedures are part of the whole program. So we are not you're not doing sauna separately and abhyanga separately. It is sequenced in that way that we start from cleansing at the level of your cells. So when you drink medicated ghee, yeah, and by the way, medicated ghee, and most people think, oh, you're going to put on weight and you're drinking ghee. And I've done panchkarmas for patients and for myself. That is when you lose the maximum weight. You're
Wow.
drinking pure fat, pure medicated ghee. You're not even having any other food. So we start from 50 mil, 50, 100, 150, 200, 250 mil
Wow.
of ghee, right? And that is when you can see your skin is glowing. It's just amazing to if anybody can do that. And you lose the maximum amount of fat, amount of weight in that period,
Of
in
course,
that 4 5 days.
of course, your body's going to say if you've got so much fat going through, your body is not going to want to form fat. It'll say because if you look at a camel, all right. Sorry, I'm comparing humans to camels now. If you look at a camel and you walk them through the desert, they can stay hungry and they can stay thirsty for a long time because
Yeah.
they've got this big hump.
Preserving, yeah.
Yeah, preserving everything, and then and so they can survive. But that's the thing, we preserve as human beings, we preserve fat because of survival mechanism and
Yeah.
because we stuff ourselves. And I don't care what people say, right? Because I've dealt with so many people over the years, and here's what people do. Oh yeah, yeah, I can do that, I'll do that, and then I'll do this and I'll do that. Truth is they don't do it. People pick and choose what
Yep.
they think. They're not experts. They think, oh, I'll do this and I'll be fine. It's like someone I remember doing a retreat where someone thought, oh, it's the environment, I'll just go to the venue a couple of months later, a couple of weeks later, and they'll be fine. It doesn't work like that.
No, no.
You have to truly be invested in your own health. And
Panchkarma is for those who really want to change overall.
yeah,
And the reason for all of these, I'm mentioning this is, I'm giving really an overview. But if I have to mention every specific action that we take, there is a reasoning for that, why we're doing that. There are scientific studies based on that. So it is not just a random program that you're doing, but it is, I've seen the results in all sorts of conditions. Psoriasis, one of the most difficult condition to cure. And there is no cure in modern medicine. I've seen it cleared completely. And I'm talking about really bad psoriasis, whole body psoriasis, which clears with panchkarma.
that's
And
absolutely
all sorts of other diseases as well. So yeah, it is for those who really want their health to shift.
wonderful. And so before we finish on the last topic, I just want to remind people we are about to launch in September our brand new podcast on a different channel. So Harin Rabbani Show continues with me, myself, and I, but the Natural Medicine podcast will be available to you on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and every other good network. So if you'd like to take part of it, just type in Natural Medicine Podcast into the comment section. And that way, when it comes to launching time or closest to launching, we will let you know. And then please make sure you've told your friends and etc. to join, because our job here is to share with you information that will help you to, number one, take responsibility for your own health. If you live in the UK, if you live in the US, you're screwed because the amount of money it costs to get your health sorted if you haven't got that kind of money. UK is going down that route, and any other part of the world that you're from, when you take responsibility for your own health, here's what happens: you don't have to suffer for weeks, months, and even years. People come to me or come to Ashish after to me they've had diabetes for 20 years, and it's like, okay, let's see if we can save your foot then, and the rest of your life. And so
Yeah.
same with natural fertility. After they've tried IVF a million times, but spent a fortune on there, then they realize, oh, I could have done it naturally. Well, this is what we're bringing to you: strategies, ideas, ways you can take responsibility for your own health and not have to rely on a profit incentivized system that is based on looking after your symptoms and not you. So that's all I'm going to say about that. Now let's talk about one of the greatest poisons that you can add into the mix of who you are that will age you rapidly. Just think of someone who's really miserable. I'm talking about really miserable, constantly groaning and moaning. Have you noticed how many wrinkles they've got on their face and forehead? They're aging really fast. That's because they've let their stress, their anxiety, depression, their anger, whatever it is, to take over their mind and their body. So, what does Ayurveda say about people who are stressing? I mean, we know the answers, but share with us from your perspective.
Absolutely. That is part of the whole Panchkarma program as well. So Panchkarma is more of a retreat program. You speak less, you stay silent, you do chanting, you do yoga, you do all of those practices to cleanse your mind as well, to rejuvenate your mind also. So it's a mindset shift as well, which comes with your body shift also, and your health shift as well. So Ayurveda, according to Ayurveda, every single disease is psychosomatic. It first starts in your aura, it starts in your energy, it starts in your mind, and then it manifests. So that is the whole sequence of it, whether you realize it or not. So you have to cleanse from your mind also. You have to change your mind about a certain disease, that you don't, you are not the disease itself. You are different from disease, and you have this particular disease which you can get rid of. And mindset shift is important for anything that we are doing, and we have more chronic conditions than we used to have before. So for that, mindset shift is crucial.
If you're someone who's hypochondriac, constantly worrying the end is nigh, then you are more likely to fall ill. And let me tell you a little secret of mine. I don't fall ill. The only how many times? 3 times I may have fallen ill over the last, since at least I know since 1998. No, since 2000. Post divorce, the only time I fell ill was 3 times, and all 3 of them were to do with emotional traumas, emotional stuff that went on with some close family members of mine. And you know how I did it? I just said, I haven't got time to be ill. My life is way too precious, way too important for me to fall ill. And it's same with, well, sleep is a different matter. But if your attitude is, oh my God, and this is important to understand, because that topic we're not allowed to talk about and we'll get shut down for, that, begins with C, has the number 19 in there, that one. So imagine you are being told that, oh my God, everybody needs protection from this disease. Everybody. Otherwise, something terrible will happen to you. Guess what? What do you think happened? I mean, because there's something called the placebo effect, which is saying you go to the doctor thinking you're going to get better. The doctor gives you a sugar pill. In other words, there's just sugar in there. There's no medication. There's no active ingredients that's going to help you, and you get better. That's called a placebo. It's a mind over body. The average medicine has about 30% placebo effect. The Prozac, a meta study showed that one of the biggest selling drugs in the world, Prozac, has about 98% placebo. In other words, it was your mind thinking, oh, I'm better now. But then there's the opposite. It's called the nocebo, N-O-C-E-B-O, nocebo effect. And I'll give you an example from the works of Dr. Bruce Lipton in one of his books. It could have been Spontaneous Evolution or The Biology of Belief. I think it was the first, Spontaneous Evolution. He talked about how a patient went to see his doctor, his physician, his GP, and the doctor checked him. He had something going on his throat. He checked and he saw some white markings. He goes, oh, you got cancer. It's lung cancer and it's spread to your throat. You've only got so many months to live. I think 2 or 3 days later, he died. When they did the autopsy, so they opened him up, they found 0 lung cancer and such little cancer in his throat that there's no way he would have died from it. But the belief, the mindset that he was going to die, the belief that he was going to die is actually what killed him. I'm not saying that having positive mindset and surviving on bakery, Greg's Bakery or that Big M food is going to work together. It doesn't work together. You got to do everything else. But you got to take true positive responsibility and say, you know what? I choose to be healthy. And
Yeah.
you might say, well, and I can promise you, here's why people look, if people I've come across who struggle with their health, here's why. Biggest reason, and it's not genetics, it's because they don't have enough reasons to be healthy, enough reasons to be alive, enough hope to be alive. So, hope is very important when it comes to health.
Yeah.
Hope and faith that you are here for greater things and you choose to have that energy. That, my friend, is what keeps me healthy. Yes, I back it up by eating well. Yes, I back it up with the fitness stuff. That becomes easy, but the hope is what drives me. So when it comes to mindset, if you're falling ill, you need to work on that. When someone comes to me with type 2 diabetes, that's the first thing I look at. What's their mindset like? If their mindset is, and I had someone recently, a good friend of mine, and she hasn't got time for a 5-minute walk after a meal. I thought, well, I can't take you on as a client, whether
Yeah.
you decide you want to come on as a client or not. If your attitude is, I don't even have 5-minute time for me, then sorry, good luck. I didn't say this to her. I'm just saying it now. I'll see you at your funeral. You won't see me though. And it's that serious. So you got to change your attitude, your mindset to your own health. And by the way, hello to everyone watching live. You're watching the Haroon Rabbani podcast with myself, Haroon Rabbani, and Dr. Ashish Paul. We are talking about natural medicine, and we will be launching the natural medicine podcast very, very soon, sometime in September, and we will let you know. Ashish, is there any other final remarks you want to make? I've just realized I went over the top with time.
Yes, so we got to finish. Yeah, so anti-aging or rejuvenation, if you want to rejuvenate, you got to first rejuvenate your gut. That is the first step. And rejuvenating everything else, your mind, your body, your spirit, your emotions. It's an overall. Doesn't matter what you do from outside. You can still do all the physical stuff, all the serums, all the anti-aging, the Botox and everything else that you're doing. I have no issues with that as long as you're working inside of you also, because your anti-aging or your rejuvenation is not going to happen from outside. It's going to happen from inside. And then you can enhance it with all the things that you want from outside.
Brilliant. You know, my friends, the truth is, I will tell you my life purpose. Whether I live for another 5 years, 10 years, 50 years, or 100 years, who knows? If I'm meant to live for 100 until 150, then I've got 98 years left, or 97 and a bit left. So I've got double the amount of life left. So here's my intention. My intention is for everybody in the world to go, number one, natural medicine if they need it. Number two, take full responsibility so that we are not controlled, manipulated, used, abused, profiteered over by people with agendas of greed and control. That's simple agenda. I've just said it publicly, and that's what it is. So then the only way we can achieve it, and I know Ashish, Dr. Ashish and I are on the same mission, the only way we're going to achieve it is for you watching right now. If you want to really help what we're doing, start off with yourself. Don't go and preach to anyone. Practice it. Don't even tell us you're doing it. Well, actually, tell us, give us feedback. Live it, breathe it,
Yeah.
and then teach it. Thank you, Ashish, for joining once again. It's been absolutely brilliant. We'll see you next week. I'll see you before then, but we'll see everybody later. My name is Haroon Rabbani, and you heard from me and Dr. Ashish Paul. See you very soon. Bye for now.
Thank you. Bye.